Hey, my name is Shelly, and this is my channel, Shell Space. So, I'm getting sick, so if I sound a little hoarse and nasally, you know why. So today is basically going to be my January wrap-up, plus February's reads, and some current reads that are kind of like passing over from January to February. As always, I'll have timestamps, so if you're interested in more than one, it'll be down below. January was an interesting month. Like, I didn't think that I was going to read a lot because it was quite busy. But I actually managed to like put in a dent in some continuing series. I think I finished a series and I finished like an arc. So I did some pretty good work. And most of them were 4 to 5 stars. So that's pretty amazing. So the first one I'm going to mention is Lost Metal by Brandon Sanderson. This is the last book in the Mistborn Era 2 book. And I had a good time with this. The thing is, I had to listen to the audiobook because I got the audiobook through the library and I had it, so I grabbed it because I don't own the physical copy yet. But I have a kind of a love-hate relationship with Michael Kramer, the narrator. I think he's a really good narrator, but sometimes he just doesn't work for me. And the Mistborn, I think it's more on he works better for me than some other series that I've listened to that he's narrated. So I went into the Lost Metal with really high expectations. I'm not going to lie. They were super high. Everyone was like, it's the best, like, Cosmere book besides Stormlight. You know, it's like really epic. It really like pulls everything in together and you have to read all the other Cosmere books in order to read it. So I'm like, okay, that sounds amazing. And it was really good. But yeah, like I don't know, maybe I'm just not a Mistborn fan. I'm a Cosmere fan. I'm a Stormlight, like, super fan. But Mistborn was just, like, not for me. I do prefer the second era more over than the first era. I know this is a super unpopular opinion, but it's just my opinion. So, but this book was really good. And I really liked how it ended. And I do like Wayne. And I know a lot of people don't like Wayne, but I love Wayne. I just adore him. He's like a puppy dog. Like, I just love him. I really liked the fact that it was like the book was mostly focused on him, and I did like where it went, and I'm very curious because the ending was kind of like an ending, but then it was like but ... So I'm kind of curious to see where that goes, how it's going to connect with the rest of the Cosmere, and all that. So overall, I had a pretty good time, and I rated it 4 stars. Not my favorite in Brandon's work or the Cosmere, but it was pretty solid, and I had a pretty good time. After that, I was like kind of a little sick of fantasy, and I watched somebody's video, and they mentioned The First Sister by Lyndon E. Lewis, and I was like, you know what? I have that book. I should read it. The only reason I didn't read it is because I saw some people reviewing it and they didn't give it the best review. So I'm like, okay, well, I wasn't really expecting much from it. Holy crap, I love this book. Oh my gosh. This is a space opera. I wouldn't say it's space opera. It's sci-fi for sure. And the world's very reminiscent to like Red Rising and The Expanse. The world, not the story or anything like that. It's very reminiscent to both of them because, like, you know, we have humans and they're living outside of Earth. They're living on Mars and Venus and in the belt and on Ceres. In order for humans to live in space, they had to be genetically enhanced. The people who were like the rich people, they genetically enhance themselves and they're beautiful, like perfect beings. So they're like the top hierarchy of the system. Like they're the top people. And then we have the lower people, or I guess they're not lower, they're kind of like on par. The religious factor, which is the Red Sister, is from this religious factor. And they are very much, very religious. So we have that whole society. And then we have like the kind of the lower society where like it's like the people that were like, genetically tested on and became almost like mutants are considered like the lower class people. So our story takes place from like 3 different perspectives, and it is first person narrative, which I don't always like, but for some reason in this book, I really connected with it. The first POV is the First Sister. That is her name. That's what she goes by. She's basically like this priestess who lives on ships. Like all these ships need like priestess to like bless the people and basically like act as their concubines, basically. So their purpose is to basically make the soldiers and the staff feel happy and welcome. That's their job. But in order to do that, they remove their ability to speak. So the sisters are all mute. So that is her story. Her story is like her being on the ship, and her captain that she really liked retires and like leaves her, and then now this new captain, this new female captain, shows up and kind of shakes up her world. So that's her story. And the next POV is about a soldier who is from like a small low-class society that works his way up and becomes part of this academy and becomes a part like of this dueling system. So in order to be like a top soldier, you have to have a dueling system, and basically with another person. So basically you get connected, like a neural link connected with you and this other person, so you're connected at all times so you can fight better. And he wakes up and he discovers that his partner is gone. So now he's at a loss of what to do. And then the third POV is, I think it's better if I leave it as a mystery. And I absolutely loved their perspective. In this book, there's queer representation, non-binary representation, and a whole lot of trauma. Although it was a little predictable at times, I felt like I was constantly turning the page, needing to know more. I was highly invested in the characters. I did not want, like the last 100 pages, I was just like in twists because I didn't want anybody to get hurt. So if you're interested in that, I highly recommend it. Since I was on a sci-fi kick, I decided to continue on with The Expanse. I've been trying to read The Expanse forever. I was a really big fan of the show. Didn't really like how it ended, but I felt like I should give the books a good old try. They don't really work well for me. Like, I do understand why people love it, but for me, I don't know. There's something that I just don't connect with. But I do love the story. I do love the characters. Don't get me wrong. I think it's all fantastic. So finally, I picked up Cibola Burn. Yeah, not much to say about this. It's like, I think this is the fourth book in the series. I can't say anything else. I highly recommend it for sci-fi lovers. I'm happy to continue on with the series, and I will be reading book 5 very soon. Because I had such a great time with First Sister, I picked up Second Rebel. I love this book too. This was also a 5-star read. Again, like I mentioned, I can't say anything else, but after the first book, you kind of develop where the characters are, what's going on, the story, whatever. And then the second book is very much like, now they're dealing with the consequences of what happened in the first book. And they're really bad, majority of them. But I love these characters. Oh my gosh, I love them so much. Like I mentioned, in the first book, a lot of the stuff was predictable, but majority of the time I was on the edge of my seat, not wanting anything bad to happen. I'm still feeling my feelings from the end of this book, and I will definitely, spoiler alert, will be continuing on with the next book. And then my last read of January, which I literally just finished yesterday, and that is Destiny by Elizabeth Hayden. This is the third book in the Symphony of Ages and the final book in the first trilogy. Like, it's broken up in different like arcs, so this is the final book in the first arc. This book took me 2 months to read, and it's not because I didn't like it. It was because the font is so small. I have problems with my eyes and I get a lot of migraines, so reading small font is really difficult for me. I have to take my time with it. And this book, it was incredibly dense, like incredibly dense. There was so much happening in this book. It's not one of those books that you can blow through. You have to take your time with it. You have to absorb all the information because there's so much to it. This is like, I would say, like, this is comparable to the Wheel of Time. That's how many characters there are. There's how many factions there are. There's how many, like, different magic systems. Like, it's that big, that expansive. But this is more on the romance side. Yeah, I can't really say much about it. I think I might do I think it's called the Rhapsody Trilogy review. And I'll talk about it more in depth there without giving spoilers, obviously. So hopefully that will come soon. I felt like this book was kind of a product of what was happening in the publishing world at the time in the early 2000s, which was basically bigger means better, which is not always the case, as we know. But at the time, a lot of books that were coming out were like 1,000-page long books, and that was a thing. So I feel like this book really suffered from it. and could have really done with edit, like a big edit. I think that they could have cut down on like 200 pages worth of editing. But that's just my personal opinion. Some people might like that, but for me, I was just like, okay, let's just get on with the story, please. I was very invested in the story. I was very invested in the characters. I was really wanted to know, but there's just so much other things that I'm just like, did we really need to do all that? But the epilogue, oh my gosh. Okay, so for those who don't know, I actually read this a really long time ago. So this is technically a reread for me, but it's been such a long time I don't remember anything. So it's basically like a read. But the epilogue, I was like, why didn't I remember that? Everything makes so much sense. It was just one of those things where you're just like, well, now I gotta read the next book right away. Okay, so I highly recommend this to people who like big epic worlds, very expansive, lots of POVs, lots of different characters, ancient civilizations, lots of different lore and magic systems, and a little bit of religion, and lots of political maneuvering, and found family. Oh my gosh, the best found family, probably my favorite. Because they genuinely test each other, and the actual dialogue that's between them is believable. Like, it's not like one of those cringy ones like, ooh, that's... It just seemed forced. It's not. The three main characters is just so... What is the word that I'm looking for? Genuine, I guess. It's just so genuine. I'm really happy that I finished it, and I'm really... I wouldn't say really excited, but I'm looking forward to continue on with the series. Oh, I forgot to mention, so this book is actually like no longer published, but you can find a lot of like, it's very easy to find used copies. Also, I think it's on Kindle, and there is an audiobook of it, which I listened to just to get to the end of this, and I really didn't like the audiobook. I thought it's not bad. I just felt like the audiobook should have been male and female instead of just all male. So that was just my own personal preference. But yeah, if you're interested, you can find it that way through used books, Kindle, or audiobook on Audible. Okay, so on to what I'm currently reading at the moment. So currently I'm reading Paradise 1. I kind of put this down to finish Destiny because Destiny was like really, like, it's thick. So I want to finish. I'm really enjoying it. This is like sci-fi horror. I don't read sci-fi horror, so I kind of am curious to pick this up. So far, it's not so scary. It's actually funnier than I thought it was, but I'm really enjoying it. So I'm really excited to continue on with it. There's a lot of weird things happening. So in this world, we are living in space, and we are colonized other places. In this book, we are following Alexandra Petrova, who is living on Ganymede, I think, and then something happens, and she was part of this like task force called, I think it was called Firewatch, and she basically gets demoted and sent to this like ship that's going to this remote place called Paradise 1, and that's where her mom lives. So she's going to see her mom. But weird stuff is happening, and there's not a lot of information given, and her shipmates all happen to be like dishonored, like, what's the word? What's the term? Honorably discharged people. And then, yeah, and weird shit happens. Like, that's all I'm going to say. So far, it's not that scary, but it's very suspenseful, for sure. And surprisingly funny. So I really am having a good time with this. The next book I'm actually in the middle of is Convoluted Universes, book 3 by Dolores Cannon. This is a non-fiction book about past life regression. What past life regression is basically a technique where you hypnotize people into their past lives, whether or not you believe in past lives or not. Dolores Cannon was a hypnosis, and these are her like accounts of all the patients she's had from like the 70s to the 2000s until she passed away. It's a little far-fetched and kind of unbelievable for some things, but the way that it's written is very like engaging, almost like a bunch of short stories, and that's what I really like. And yes, it's got a lot of outlandish ideas. It's not for everybody, but I am very much into metaphysics, so I find it extremely fascinating, and I'm having a good time. I'm basically reading this, I'm listening to the audiobook, so I'm listening to it in between my big reads, just to break it up. Yeah, so if that sounds like something that you're interested in, I really recommend anything written by Dolores Cannon. And the last book that I'm actually currently reading, I just picked it up, is Blood and Fire by Ryan Cahill. This is going to be a reread for me. The reason why I'm reading it is because I'm doing a bit of a buddy read with Taylor from Made Between the Pages. It was very impromptu and like very last minute, but I'm like, yeah, I've been wanting to read it for a long time, so I said yes. So I have to listen to the audiobook for the first one because I believe she has already read of Blood and Fire and The Fall, which is the novella. And then we're going to pick up of Darkness and Light together. So I gotta burn through this audiobook real fast. The audiobook luckily has both of Blood and Fire and The Fall in it. That won't take me long. I probably will get it done by the end of the weekend. Ryan Cahill is a very successful indie author, and this is the story. It's like dragon fantasy. That's heavily inspired by John Gwynn's writing. But the first book is very much like coming of age, very like similar to Aragon. But then it just starts, from what I've heard, it starts to evolve and change into something completely original. And I've heard it's on like lots of people top 10 series of all time. So it is currently ongoing. And yeah, I'm excited to jump back into that. So besides Of Darkness and Light, which is the second book in the Bound in the Broken series, I'm going to be picking up The Last Hero. This is the final book in the First Sister trilogy, and I am sad, excited, all the emotions to continue on with this series. I am scared to see how it ends, but also at the same time, I really, really want to know. So I will be reading this for sure amongst the other books that I am reading. And then the last one I hope to get to, but I don't know if I will, is Revelation Space by Alistair Reynolds. And I got this from the library and I've been waiting for it for a really long time. The audiobook finally came in, so I grabbed it. So I'm hoping that I will be able to fit this in between everything that I'm reading in February. The shortest month. And I'm like, wow, let's just pack on everything. Let's pack on these massive books. Wish me luck, because I honestly don't know how I'm going to do it. But it's going to be awesome. It's going to be fun. And I'm really looking forward to reading all of these books, because honestly, they just... a lot of, even the ones that I started, they just seem like something that I'm just going to really love. And I'm really looking forward to that, because I mean, sometimes we just pick up books, we're like, I might like it. I'm guaranteed that I'm going to like all these books. So that's something positive to say. So that was my January wrap up and my February TBR. Comment down below. Let me know your thoughts. You can always find me on Instagram and Goodreads. Like and subscribe if you want to. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a fantastic day. Bye.